Irresponsible media reporting. Let's talk about the bombing of the hospital in Gaza. And I'm going to be coming at this from the standpoint of somebody who was raised Jewish. Because this is how Jews get harmed. This is how hatred of Jews spread. Because Israel has already done enough wrongs by itself. I mean, I talk about on this podcast things that I disagree with Netenyahu. I don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. I think he's a terrible leader. I think he's corrupt. I think he's done a lot of things that only benefit him and not the nation as a whole. And so Israel doesn't need any help, especially from an irresponsible media, to create false narratives about things that did not happen, especially about things that if they don't know what the truth is. And unfortunately, when Israel does things that are bad, you have a non-insignificant segment of society who will say, well, Israel equals Jews, so if Israel does something bad, that means that Jews are bad, so let's use that as an excuse to harm more Jews. And we've seen in this country now that there is increased chatter of harm that could be happening. I mean, I'm not practicing. I don't go to synagogue. But if I did go to synagogue, I would be less likely to want to bring me and my family to synagogue because of the opportunity that would present itself of people who would wish to do me and my family and other people of my faith harm, to now go do it because people are being misled about certain things like the bombing of the hospital in Gaza. And when the media wrongly suggests and wrongly reports that Israel has done something bad, you just put gasoline on the fire of, well, Israel equals Jews, and if Israel does something bad, the Jews are bad, so we're going to now take out our hatred on Jewish people. And as it's said, might be cliche, but the falsehood will travel halfway around the world before the truth gets out of bed. So, how did they report? How is the media irresponsible with this? Well, first, they flat out said in a headline, one of the headlines, and I was watching this on MSNBC, and they were talking about like a New York Times headline. And the New York Times headline basically said, Israel bombs Gaza hospital, reports Hamas. Now, what's wrong with that statement? What are the two things that are wrong with that statement? A, why are you trusting anything that Hamas says? Hamas is known to be a terrorist organization. They are not to be trusted. You cannot trust anything. Now, there are going to be people who I'm sure will watch this video who will say, well, you can't trust Israel either. I mean, fine, you can say that. You can say you can't trust any government at all. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you can't trust Hamas. Period. End of story. There's no whataboutisms there. Again, Hamas saying that Israel did something wrong isn't evidence or proof that Israel did something wrong. And as there is now evidence showing that it wasn't, in fact, Israel, that it was a rocket that was an Islamic Jihad rocket in Gaza that was launched and misfired and then went into the hospital. So you're believing Hamas when you shouldn't. Like Hamas said, we have X amount of hostages. Why would I believe the number that Hamas gives? There's no reason to believe anything that Hamas says. But then you also, just took their word on it and just didn't go verify it. Instead of maybe reporting explosion at hospital, kills many Palestinians, investigation being done as to who was responsible for the explosion or something like that. Or a hospital bombed, hundreds killed. It is still yet to be determined who caused the bombing. At that point, you don't give anybody the opportunity to point to a headline and say, oh, Israel did it. Again, you don't want to give the anti-Semites, or any bigot for that matter, any more fuel that they can use to fuel their bigotry and to help fuel the bigotry of others. Because that's a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for more people getting hurt, more people getting killed. And Demonox, as I said this earlier, I don't know if you heard it or not. I don't know if you came in a little late or not, but I said, Israel has done plenty wrong by themselves. You don't have to make up anything. Israel has done wrong, especially under Benjamin Netanyahu. There is nothing that you have to make up about Israel. There's plenty that you can point to. Bulldozing of Palestinian homes to make room for settlements. Shutting off of water and electricity for hospitals so that the innocent people who are being harmed can't get medical treatment. Or that innocent people who are being harmed because they are victims of the battles between Hamas and Israel now have to drink salt water from their pipes. Those are not good decisions on the part of Israel. Those are bad decisions on the part of Israel, and you can judge Israel. And those decisions in and of themselves are going to make lives more difficult for Jews around the world, because the anti-Semites who say Zionists automatically equal Jews and Israel automatically equal Jews, even though there are clearly, if you go online, plenty of Jews who are not Zionists. There are clearly plenty of people who disagree with the actions of Israel. There are clearly plenty of Jewish people like myself who support a two-state solution, who wants Israel to get out of Gaza, get out of the West Bank, let them govern themselves, etc. But you don't want to fuel the fire, and every time you have an irresponsible story like this or like many others that helps bigots fuel their bigotry, you're only giving them more you're only making it easier for them to push their bigoted agenda, push their narrative, and you're putting more Jews at risk. And if there's a tale as old as time on the planet Earth, regardless of whatever you want to feel like, whatever you want to say, is tale of all the time is always blame the Jews. That is something that is a world pastime. Like people say that baseball is America's national pastime, while the world's pastime is blaming the Jews for everything. You don't want to give anybody any more opportunities to blame Jews for things that they didn't do, especially when there's a particular Jewish person, i.e. Benjamin Netanyahu, who is already making plenty of bad decisions, that is already putting plenty of Jews at risk for making the state of Israel look worse with every bad decision that he makes, half of which, at least, is just being done to protect his corrupt ass. So the media needs to be more responsible when it comes to how it reports that, because it's just going to continue to harm people. And the same is true for the other side. Like when they reported something like, there was another article that says Palestinians say that Israel bombed the hospital. It wasn't Palestinians that said it. It's Hamas that said it. You can't equate Palestinians with Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist group. There is a large group of people who are Palestinians who are not part of Hamas. Most Palestinians are not in Hamas. Many Palestinians don't even live in the area. Many Palestinians live here. And unfortunately, there is a Palestinian child right now who was murdered by the landlord because of the hateful rhetoric that's being spread. Again, because of an irresponsible media that wants to try and equate Hamas with Palestinians, that wants to equate Muslims and terrorists and Arabs with terrorists. The media needs to be much more careful with how it words its headlines. They are very lazy about how they word their headlines, and they need to be much more careful because wording matters. And in the next clip that I'm about to make, we're going to go into that a little bit more detail, because not only does irresponsible journalism help harm people, it also helps to continue to marginalize them and to view people as lesser. And we're going to do that one in a second.